Welcome to a new altcoin update. We are going to discuss altcoins today in this relatively short update. The markets are not doing much, but we do have momentum on the altcoins, so that's what we're going to cover in this update, where maybe we are on the edge of more altcoins to see breaking upwards. Maybe Bitcoin is going to consolidate a little bit more, falling through the 200-week EMA as it's just continuing the chop. But that's what we're going to focus on in this update. Before we continue, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to this YouTube channel. This video is sponsored by Bitvavo, which is the best exchange in the Netherlands, best broker, has more than 200 digital assets. And if you start trading and investing your crypto there, you get 10 euros for free after your first deposit. I'm using Bitvavo as my investment exchange, where I buy my altcoins, where I buy my Bitcoin, where I buy my ETH for the long term. It's one of the best and easiest to use, especially if you get started. When we're looking at the altcoins, we can look at cycles. So there are two topics that I want to discuss in this update. The first one is the fact that the markets are very cyclical, which means that this period in time is comparable to the period that we had in the previous cycle and the period in the cycle before that. So that's all very much aligned with each other. In that case, we are 8 to 10 months prior of the halving, which means that usually that's the period where the altcoins start to bottom out and where the trend starts to shift. So in this case, what we witness here is the others dominance chart, which is the market cap of others, which shows a massive bullish divergence, which potentially might mean that we are on the verge of bottoming out here for the markets, which was during June. We've had it in August, the previous cycle, and we've had it in November in the cycle before that. Halving is moving forward slightly. So in this case, we're going to have it in April. We had it in May to June last cycle and July the cycle before that. So it's starting to move a little bit. So it's also very reasonable that we are finding ourselves into an altcoin bottom before or earlier than the previous cycle. But the thesis is the same, which is massive bull cycle after the halving. Actually, pre-halving, there's one already. Markets start to trend downwards. Bottom is made approximately 6 to 10 months prior of the halving, and then an upwards run. So that's what we see here again. When we're looking at the total market cap for crypto, we can still see that we are consolidating here. So this means that we're still on the edge of a very important support level. We might be on the verge of breaking down even more, which means that we're going to have a breakdown here and retest the levels around 780 billion to 1 trillion, to 900 billion, sorry. As we have currently got a rally from the lows that we witnessed, we switched the trend and we have been making higher lows, and now we're again testing the support level for support, just like we have been testing resistance again for resistance. So we are on the verge of, again, a period of boredom, I would actually say so. In this case, the altcoin market cap is also very comparable to the Wall Street Wyckoff cheat sheet, which would mean that we're going to have some more downwards momentum. As in the previous cycle, we've seen that the total tree chart might have a bottom around September, as you can see, but then still it drops down slightly more before the new bull cycle begins. So the conclusion is we are on the edge of the final part, or we are on the final part of this entire correction, and we are on the edge of having that reversal upwards. This is also what we can find in other altcoin charts, especially the Bitcoin dominance, which is currently showing a case that we are fighting the 200-week EMA and that we are into an edge of turning around, which means that most likely we are going to fall south when it comes to the EMA and towards the indicators that we have here. Now, when we look at altcoins overall, I think Chainlink is a very clear indicator here, which is we've had a breakdown beneath support. We are into a bear market since November 2020. We have been getting deviation here, a retest which is currently holding up and bouncing back up. So what we want to see with Chainlink is that we are actually going to fulfill that and that we're going to have a runner from here. So we need to stay above 2200 sats. Now there are a few altcoins that are doing really well. If you look at things like Perp, they have been blowing up in the past few days. It's not certain whether that's actually going to sustain as a potential trade strategy or as an actual asset, or whether it's a liquidity hunt, or whether it's a cartel moving the markets, who knows. But what we do know is that we are getting very clear breakouts here. So what I mentioned in my tweet yesterday is that there are a few strategies which you can be using, which is next to the Wall Street cheat sheet, which we just discussed. We are on the lowest point of the market through which the interest is on its lowest ground. Before we continue with Perp, as I mentioned, Bitvavo has 200 plus assets listed on the exchange. Multiple altcoins can be traded there, can be bought and sold there. As I mentioned, I'm using it as my investment exchange and also my fiat gateway. Make sure to check out the exchange, which gives you 10 euros free if you did make your first deposit after signing up your account through the link in the description beneath. And once again, this video is sponsored by Bitvavo. Now, when we go towards the altcoins which are moving at this point, we can see a case of breakout continuation play. So there are three strategies which you can use. The first one is a case where we buy the breakout and play the continuation game. As we go back further down the line, we can start seeing these breakouts taking place in not too much volume, which means that there is not enough of liquidity to actually make the move here. But we do see continuation plays here, breakout and a massive candle afterwards, consolidation, breakout, continuation, breakout, continuation, breakout, continuation. So there are multiple charts that you can use as a trading investigation here and a way to actually trade the breakout. How do you do that? Well, very simple. You take the long entry on the breakout, you place your stop somewhere beneath. The moment that it starts to run, you start adjusting your SL towards break, and then you let it go. The other strategy you can use is the strategy that you buy the support resistance flip. So in that case, we've got the breakout taking place here. We are consolidating and we do have a retest. We've got a breakout here, we've got a retest, and we buy there, stop here, and take the trade towards how far you can take the trading stop and how far you can go with the actual trade ID. Very simple again, not a complex strategy, but you can use it on a lower time frames. And I think overall what we currently are seeing is a case where people are jumping into an asset like Perp, in which they imagine that they can continue to have progressive, let's say, money to be made out of it. But I think that if you start jumping into assets that make this move, it's probably a little bit too late to jump into it, and I think you're on the edge of losing money at all. This one just went 3x, and what I think is important to realize is that we've got this long period of consolidation, and then it starts to make the first real breakout here. That is the first real massive move, which is comparable to the breakout which we witnessed in January. That move is the one you want to capture, because or you can actually screen it on multiple charts, but if that one is going to be the one that you can catch, congratulations. And after that, as I mentioned, you can use the breakout plays, but you can also use the support resistance flip plays, and you can look at the case of the breakdown shorts, which we have here, which is kind of tricky if the markets are not yet turning around. But in this case, we've got a rejection taking place, markets start to fall south, and that's when you can start taking the short in these bearish resistances. In this case, in this example, I wouldn't be stopped out, but it's also not a very favorable short. The same can be said about things like Unvi, which have been moving up massively. Took out the previous high, and that's the moment when it starts to cascade south even more. So probably we'll be seeing more of that in the cycle, but we are also going to see more breakouts on the markets to take place. A potential example could be Reef in this point, which is currently consolidating. As we can see, we have been making a breakout, we have been seeing a retest. As long as it consolidates in this range and starts to grind back up towards the highs, I assume that we're going to have a relatively big breakout, which is going to be to 1800, 1900, who knows, but at least it's going to have continuation on the pattern here as long as Bitcoin is going to stay calm. I hope you have been enjoying this update. I'll be back on Tuesday with a new Bitcoin update. It's gonna be a big week. CPI week is coming up. If you want to follow my trades, make sure to join the premium membership where you can find all the trades that I do, also the trades from the traders. Make sure to sign up and I'll see you again soon. Ciao, ciao.